It's Monday. Oh, well, hold on. All right, cool. It's Monday, September 2nd. I'm Chuck Silver. BBM's full, filled early this year. We're going to talk about the marathon today. It's Labor Day, and unfortunately, Underdog didn't gift us with a. Oh, this literally just popped up in the last 2 minutes because I checked right before I started this stream and we didn't have one yet. I haven't entered a single one of these flock community contests. At first, I did not like this advanced format, but if you can get the 1 out of 12 out of your pod, 1 out of 2, 1 out of 2, I actually like my chances against a random playoff team. Uh, if I'm doing it, I mean, it's only 3 entry max, $10, $30 total, 10K for first. It's actually not a bad tournament, 100 seat final. Not sure I'm going to get any in there though. I still have a few contests I want to finish on the other sites, and then we'll see how far this marathon gets. It might get pretty close to full if it doesn't fill. 40,000 entries. They're not dropping contests, so that tells me they want people to enter this because it's basically the only option. $50 sprint is probably a price point out of people's. Uh, it's a price point that's out of people's budget. So this one's going to be a little bit tougher, but we are going to draft a marathon today. If you want to draft along, feel free. You're not just competing in this pod. We're competing against probably 150,000 other people. One thing I want to talk about while we wait for this to start. So I started a marathon stream a few days ago, and then EV Mux froze. It's our streaming software that we use, and kind of just had to cut the stream short. So I'm probably just going to repeat all the stuff that I was talking about there. I only talked for a few minutes, but I think the first thing is a lot of people's first reaction is we want to focus on floor in this contest, but we're trying to beat 150,000 other teams. Like, I don't think we really consider floor that much at all. In terms of the players we're picking, I think we create the floor by how we construct our lineup. How many players are we drafting at each position? Where in the draft are we taking these guys? Because we really have to hit like the super ceiling outcome for the whole lineup, and you actually don't have to be perfect to win this contest. I couldn't find the regular season BBM winner from last year, but I'm not sure that that's a perfect comparison. Like, it's good to look at to see what it took to win last year. I mean, some combination of CD Lamb, Devin A. Chain, Raheem Mostert, Trey McBride, Sam Laporta, guys like that, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and then of course Puka and Kyron. But I do have it for the other sites. I'm gonna make my pick here first, and then we can go over it. One thing I will say that was kind of weird with last year, I don't think you had a chance, like statistically, probably zero, if you didn't draft Puka and Kyron. Now, I don't think there's going to be two players that affect the contest that much this year. There could be, you never know. Someone emerges from the late round, but that was something like, halfway through last season, if you didn't have either of them, it's just how can you even sweat the contest? You're literally drawing dead to win. All right, so looks like we're going to get CMC or CD Lamb. Interesting to see JJ go first. Him and Jamar Chase are guys that I've seen fall to pick 10. I've seen someone post on Twitter JJ got to like pick 12. It seems a little extreme, but we're going to take a CD Lamb here. One thing I am excited about getting in these late entries, especially in contests that have been open the whole summer, like the marathon, there's not that many open left. There's a couple on the other sides, I guess. But let's say people are nervous about Jamar Chase missing week one. I do not care about if he misses week one. I know the marathon is full season scoring. We can withstand missing 1 week from Jamar Chase, especially if we're going to get him at an ADP value. I mean, imagine Jamar Chase starts falling into the second round. That is just such a huge advantage over teams drafted earlier. Imagine you get like a Justin Jefferson and a Jamar Chase on the same team. It's such an impossible combo. And it's going to be so rare and so strong in this contest that I mean that's my goal, just to get late JJ and late Jamar Chase, and then I'm also going to try to take a little bit more T Higgins. Uh, like I said, I don't think Jamar Chase is going to miss more than a week if he even misses 1 week. They play the Chiefs in week 2, so I'm pretty sure they're going to want to resolve that before then. We'll see who gives in, him or the Bengals. He wants $1 more than Justin Jefferson. All right, sure, dude. I mean, you only have 2 years left on your contract, but it's fine. So Jamar did go at number 8 here. It's okay. We weren't going to be able to take advantage of any falling value on him there anyway. So this is last year's winner over on one of the other sites. It's the same format as the marathon. The only difference is it's full PPR and it's 20 rounds. And so, actually, what I just said about not having Puka, this guy won without having Puka. He had Tank Dell, though, and he did have Kyron Williams. One thing that is standing out, like he did hit on the late round Jake Ferguson, turned into an elite tight end later in the season. Taysom Hill was top 10 tight end for sure. Tyler Higbee wasn't great. Kate Otten, like whatever floor play, but he hit on two ceiling plays at tight end in the last rounds. He hit on Tank Dell. He hit on Kyron. Like hitting, like super hitting on 4 of your last 5 rounds. That's enough to overcome some earlier stuff. I mean, he basically hit on a bunch of his early guys too. Josh Jacobs was disappointing. James Conner missed a lot. I don't know if he missed a lot of the season. He missed games though, and that matters a lot more in regular in like whole season scoring formats. Obviously, really good value on Dak to pair up with CeeDee Lamb. That makes sense. Devin Achane, super value. Warren was great. Deontay Foreman had a couple spike weeks. I think he had one 30-point spike week at least, and that contributed a lot. Leonard Fournette, complete zero. So only had 1-0 basically on the team. Didn't even have Amon Ra, just AJ Brown and CeeDee Lamb. Just CeeDee Lamb was the key here. Mari Cooper, one of the top players from last season. I'm sure that 50-point spike week in week 16 helped. Tyler Lockett was great. Mike Evans was such a value going here, and Zay Flowers was pretty great too. He had a few spike weeks towards the end of the season that I'm sure pushed this guy into first. But like you can see, this isn't a perfect roster. Even like my assumption was wrong, and I looked at this team a few minutes before the stream that it would have to have Puka. It didn't have to. You did have to get Tank Dell right though. One of them at least. Let's see what's going on in the draft here. Devin Achane and Gibbs. We'll see what he does at wide receiver. I don't hate the idea of this because if they're both really, really good, then it should smash as long as he. I'd probably just go with like 3 straight receivers. Wouldn't even consider an elite quarterback or an elite tight end. We are taking Kyron here. I was going through the elite running backs earlier, and my exposures on all of them are so low except for CMC and Kyron. I don't like anyone else. I'm okay with A-Chain. I hadn't been adding him too much, though. I have a ton of him over in weekly winners, but in all the other formats, I'm below the field. I'm going to try to fix that. Nico Collins, my most drafted second-round pick. And then Debo's probably second. And I think that holds in this tournament, too. I'm probably going to try to draft more A-Chain. I'm going to try to draft more Kyron. I was in a draft with Justin Herzig the other day, winner of like Ball Mania 1, probably one of the best people to learn best ball from. Just listen to him talk about stuff. And he took Devin Achane pretty early in the second round, if I'm not mistaken. And I thought that was kind of interesting for the season long format. So just looking into it more, and we've talked about this on the other marathon streams we've done. Like the whole point of Devin Achane, the reason he's going this early is because he has that 40, 50 point upside. Now, in regular formats like BBM, it still helps your advance rate if he has those spike weeks. But I'm thinking, let's say it's week 14 and you're already advancing by over 100 points. Nothing can happen where you don't advance, right? Hold on, let's see. We're going to take Ayuk here. I've done some weird stuff where I'll mix it up with like DJ Moore because that combo stuff that Chris and I were talking about and Brian and I were talking about a lot, I think that applies a lot more in contests like the marathon. Like if I pull it up, 30% of CeeDee Lamb teams have Mike Evans, 25% will have, Devonta Smith, even though that week 17 correlation isn't relevant in this contest. People will still overdraft those guys. And so if you just do something weird like, take a DJ Moore or whatever, even like not Rashi Rice because he was going late, but yeah, I don't know, just do something slightly different with your first 3 picks, and that applies a lot more here than it does in the regular formats. Need to stop talking about 6 things at once. I lose my train of thought. Okay, if Devin H, so back to what I was saying. Let's say you're already winning your pod in Best Ball Mania. There's nothing that can happen in week 14 where you don't advance. You're up by 100 points. Devin Achane goes off for 50. Like, oh, great, but it didn't help you win any more money this season. And then he, blanks in the playoff rounds, and that team's just dead, and you min cashed whatever. Devin Achane has that spike week in week 14 in this format. That's terrific. It doesn't matter what week the spike weeks come in the marathon format because you get to take advantage of it the entire season. And so a player like Devin A. Chain, he averaged in full PPR, I want to say 17 last season. It's like if he's only scoring 34 or 0, even in this format, that is so good because we're drafting other running backs. And especially in this format, we're taking more early running backs. We're not as interested in going full zero RB because we need that early season production. And so, like I was saying, with creating the floor with where we're drafting players in the draft, you draft some early running backs. You can take the hits when Devin A. Chain doesn't have a good week when he doesn't even hit your roster because the weeks he does hit your roster, it's probably adding so many points over replacement that it's making up for whatever you feel like you missed out on in the weeks when he didn't make the roster. And that goes for a few of the spike guys too. Like I'm thinking Nico Collins is a pretty great spike week guy. Tank Dell is probably the best one that's going to slate. DJ Moore was last year. I don't see why he wouldn't be this year. Metcalf, like Mike Evans, Devontae Adams can spike. And so I think we really want those spike weeks. And I'm comparing them to players like Amon Ra. I see Amon Ra as he's going to give me 20 every game. He's going to give me between 18 and 25 every game. Tyreek Hill, he might give me 9 one game, but he might give me 42 next week. And like those 42 points, it's just so much more valuable than those 9 points hurt us, if that makes sense. AJ Brown went with Josh Allen. I'll admit this is kind of an awkward one here when, taking Jalen Hurts first QB, but I mean, if you're depending on AJ Brown to probably be the wide receiver one for this team to have a chance, Jalen Hurts probably finishes as wide receiver one this year. Not to mention the questions about who is Josh Allen throwing the football to. Khalil Shakir can't catch every ball. Travis Kelsey, where'd Rashi Rice go here? 32. I mean, he got Jamar and Puka. It's a pretty rare combo in this contest, I'd imagine. So I don't hate taking Rashi Rice here. I'm gonna try not to take him in this contest because, I have some shares that were taken down here. But if I think it makes sense, I'm gonna do it. And this is a weird spot too. Like Sam Laporta 6-pass ADP. I really want to try not to go elite tight end in this contest. Say Flowers is off the board already. This is tough. Sam Laporta or Lamar Jackson. I don't want either of these guys right now. We'll take Lamar. The reason why I have such a tough time with elite tight end, there's 6 of them. At least 6. That's not even including Evan Engram. Maybe David Njoku gets there. So there's 6 elite tight ends and then 3 or 4 borderline elite tight ends. Jake Ferguson too. Half of the entries in the whole contest are going to have an elite tight end. And so are we leaving ourselves behind by not having one? I don't know. I think, because the thing too is how many of these late tight ends have the potential to break out like Trey McBride or Sam Laporta did last year, or Jake Ferguson? Like, who are the candidates? People are kind of hyped on Noah Fant. I'm buying into it a little bit, but I kind of hate it. Isaiah Likely, if he somehow takes over for Mark Andrews, or either way, I expect him to be on the field alongside Mark Andrews more. Ben Sinnott, I guess, is like the obvious one, but I have my concerns. Johnny Smith is probably a pretty good spike week guy, but I wouldn't expect that to be like a whole season thing like Sam Laporta was. Greg Dulcich, another spike week guy. Brian's pretty high on him. I've been taking him a little bit more lately. I guess not in this format. Maybe I'll tack him on today. Theo Johnson, Tucker Kraft, Kobe Parkinson could be one, but I don't know how much Sean McVay really likes Higbee. So, or how well Parkinson would have to play when Higbee comes back for him to, keep the role if he even earns it. And this is another awkward one. It's like most of these Lamar teams are going to have Mark Andrews. I haven't drafted Mark Andrews once in this contest. I just can't do it. I'd rather take Trey McBride and then Isaiah Likely later. And I know I just said I don't want to go elite tight end, but it's like I can get Trey McBride and Tony Pollard versus Rashad White and David Njoku, and I'm going to take Trey McBride and Tony Pollard every time if that's the 2v2. So, yeah, we'll see. And then I wanted to show. So this was last year's. This is 2 years ago, and the contest size was much smaller. So it's just more room to be less perfect. I mean, Robbie Chosen, Corey Davis, Cedric, is that Cedric Wilson, Westbrook Akine? This guy bricked on like 6 players and he won first place. How'd he do it? Justin Jefferson was a wide receiver 1. I mean, T. Higgins probably failed this ADP that season, but Tyreek Hill sure didn't. He was probably the wide receiver 2 or so. Brees Hall, this would have been Brees Hall's rookie year. I think he got hurt. George Kittle was probably great. Jalen Hurts was a value here for sure. Josh Jacobs was the running back 1. Miles Sanders, back when he still averaged 5 yards a carry, like he actually hit on a lot of these guys, but he bricked on a bunch too. I mean, Brian Robinson got shot. This Brian Robinson's 3rd year in the league. I don't know. This is Brian Robinson's 3rd year in the league. This guy missed on almost half his picks. Like Evan Engram was for sure a smash. McKinnon was great this year, and Deontay Foreman, I'm pretty sure, contributed too. But I want to say the field size was 44,000, so 1/3 of what we're dealing with in the marathon. But this team is far from perfect. It's just hitting on Jefferson and Tyreek. George Kittle was probably great. I mean, he didn't have a backup quarterback. He had one quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Didn't even hit on like a late round running back. He just drafted Josh Jacobs in what, the 8th round? So you got the wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, running back 1. I don't know, probably the QB 2 or 3. Top 5 tight ends. Yeah, I get it. A little surprising though, because I mean, I know it's 2 seasons ago. I'm not remembering all like the value plays or who the best picks were in fantasy that year, but this, I don't know, it just seems like there's a lot of misses here. So I guess the point to take away from that is we have a lot of room for error. Now, I just mentioned like this contest size is 3 times the size of the one that this lineup shipped, but point still remains. You don't have to be perfect. I hate this though. I really don't want to start with a quarterback and a tight end early, and I don't know. Do I reach for Pickens or Worthy? Just reach for Chris Godwin, I guess. Like I'm probably gonna get Keenan Allen right here. So I just hate it. Excuse me. I don't mind having the uncorrelated QB. I know I can add Isaiah Likely later because I'm looking at, Kyler Murray's there. We could have paired him up with Trey McBride, but I don't know the argument I've had with Lamar all offseason. And I got this from someone else. This isn't original, but it's like looking at the guys around him, Lamar versus James Cook, Kenneth Walker, Terry McLaurin, even Sam Laporta and Trey McBride, like considering there's what's the ceiling case for all of them, and Lamar just smashes all of them. Yeah, I mean, Keenan is for sure the pick here because I already feel very behind at receiver. The nice thing is we can go 2 quarterback, 2 tight end. I'm probably going to just go with Isaiah Likely here. I don't have an obvious second quarterback. I don't want to take someone early as Caleb Williams. I mean, we just saw Jalen Hurts, and I don't even know how many fantasy points Zach Wilson scored that year. But it didn't matter. It was enough to win. So if Lamar is the QB1, it's fine. We can just tack on a guy like, even like Matthew Stafford, Baker Mayfield, Geno. I wouldn't hate taking a shot on a guy that we think has a ceiling case like Drake May. It's a little bit scary, but and I have a bunch of Drake May. I'm trying to draft him as little as I can over these next few days because I already have enough. Like Bo Nix. I mean, what if he's CJ Stroud, Will Levis? Something about Will Levis. He had the highest ADOT in the NFL, which is great because we know Calvin Ridley likes to run that way really fast. And so if he can just catch those balls that he couldn't catch in Jacksonville last season, Will Levis could be one of those ceiling candidates towards the end of drafts too. And that's how you win this contest. If I didn't have Lamar, draft Will Levis, Bryce Young, and I don't know, maybe a safer guy like Baker Mayfield. And you can ship with those 3 quarterbacks if one of these guys emerges. And I think your team's just going to be a lot stronger than it is taking the early quarterback. And now we see the quarterbacks bunched up here. I hate it. We're still going to go with Christian Watson because still need to catch up at wide receiver. I thought there was another team I wanted to look at, but this was 2 years ago. This was last year's. Yeah, just Dak and Matt Stafford. Because I think an initial lean for a lot of people too would be draft 3 quarterbacks. And in 20 round drafts, it's probably more optimal than drafting 2, unless you're perfect. Like this wasn't even perfect, but it's close enough. With 18 round drafts, though, it takes away some of that flexibility. And so I think you just got to hit on your 2 quarterbacks. Unless you do the punt quarterback strategy, like I just said. But let's see. Nice, dude. Jabra03. This is a pretty good run of guys to get after starting 2 running backs. It's probably one of the best possible situations he could have gotten, actually. DJ Moore and Tank Dell, phenomenal. Christian Kirk, Roma Dunes, question marks, but they could be great. Tony Pollard went at 81. Dude, the days when Tony Pollard was there at pick 94 in every draft, I miss those days. I think Tony Pollard's my highest drafted guy now. So I do like 4 to 5 to 6 drafts at a time, depending which site or what the buy-in level is. Like if it's a $3 draft, I'll just rip 6 at a time. I don't care if I make a mistake or 2. Drafted Tony Pollard like 8 times in a row yesterday. Felt awesome. Started taking him over Aaron Jones, Najee, Raheem. Like I'm still taking Montgomery and James Conner ahead of him, but then I have Tony Pollard right behind there. And like in my mind rankings, if ADP wasn't a thing, I'm pretty sure I'd have Tony Pollard ahead of both of those guys. At least ahead of Montgomery. I'm not sure about James Conner. I think James Conner, like my argument all summer with James Conner is his ceiling is tremendous. It's just, he's got to stay healthy for 14 plus games. Trey Benson's been falling like a rock. Speaking of fallers, let's see if we can find some get some ADP value this week. And like these were BBM rankings. This isn't really relevant to marathon, but it does show where the market's heading. And like the ADPs are going to move much slower in marathon too. So if you notice someone moving, they're probably not moving as fast in the marathon. So you can get them at their old ADP if you want to get a little bit of value there. Samaj AP Ryan, yeah, it makes sense. He's up 30 spots in ADP. I don't know, man. That Jerick McKinnon role was pretty good. We know a couple catches, a couple touchdowns. It doesn't take many touches for the player in this role to, I don't know, put up a spike week at least. And he's on KC. This is our API just hasn't updated yet. Samaj, yeah, I was going to say the next guy I want to talk about, Jordan Mason. Of course, he's second on the list. He's up to 157. This seems fine. I think Liam posted on Twitter earlier that he should probably be going around Zach Charbonnet, maybe even in front of Zach Charbonnet. It seems fine, especially he hasn't been getting drafted all of this contest. Now, because this contest was like 50% full when we learned about Jordan Mason, he's going to be drafted in 50% of this contest. So it's not as big of a leverage as you'd think. Malik Washington, a guy I've been adding a lot lately. It's so funny what a couple Twitter posts can do. 214 to 200, it's around, but it's the end of drafts. It's not that significant, but he seems like a really good handcuff. As many games as Jalen Waddle missed, Tyreek, or I shouldn't say games, just as many snaps as Jalen Waddle missed when he was, taking recess in the middle of the games, whatever. Malik Washington could have a pretty good role if he's good at football. Yeah, like I could have just taken Dak here, dude. I think I messed this up already. Not happy with this. I just don't know who I'm taking if I'm not taking Lamar. I guess Terry McLaurin. Take DeAndre Hopkins here. Pretty sure, yeah, he's going to be ready for week 1. The ADP fall is meaningless, and it's kind of interesting that he's not coming back up. I'm pretty sure he was going in round 6 before he got hurt, and now he's staying in round 8 after we know that he's probably healthy for week 1. So it's going to be a value. Hollywood, also a value. A little worse because he's probably not playing this weekend. But if he comes back in like week 3, week 4, he's such a great player to add if you're behind at wide receiver. I caught up, so I'm not worried about it. And I had DeAndre Hopkins right there anyway, but like let's say you're this two running back start guy and you didn't manage to get four stud receivers in a row. Like Marquise Brown is a really strong ad to kind of help with your depth there. I hate this. Like I really want to just try every time I get CD Lamb to just draft Dak Prescott on every single CD Lamb team. And the other side of it, one thing Chris was really harping about that we discovered was the combos of these wide receiver ones with their quarterbacks. It's going to be 50% in these contests, especially Dak and CD because their ADPs kind of line up. I'm actually going to do something weird and take Jerome Ford here. And so Lamar probably outscores Dak on the season in total points. It's just a matter of by how much. And what's the difference? Like, who could we have got here? Say Terry McLaurin instead of Lamar. We take Dak here instead of DeAndre Hopkins. I'll probably take that all day. Dak and actually, it's maybe kind of close. Maybe I'm a little bit down on Hopkins, but either way, same kind of thing applies to guys like Tyreek Hill. But I think we like Dak a lot more than we like Tua in terms of fantasy. Like some guys we can do this with. Amon-Ra, let's say we took Lamar. I think it's great to double tap Goff here, and then we're just done at quarterback. Jamar Chase, probably a little too expensive to double tap with Joe Burrow, but again, if Jamar Chase is good this season, Joe Burrow is probably healthy, and this is going to definitely be a value. So I think you got to pair up Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase every time too. Like I don't hate this taking the naked Jalen Hurts a little bit past ADP in this contest without any of his receivers. I just think that you got to consider like, are you going to be regretting that decision when Joe Burrow, is past ADP down here, and you kind of wish you could just have Joe Burrow, I guess. But we're drafting a bunch of teams, so I'm sure we're going to get a bunch of stacks with our wide receiver ones anyway. So, and like I said, Lamar is going to be with CeeDee Lamb much less than Dak Prescott, and it definitely matters more in this contest. Mike, all fresh out of takes. I'm drafting so concentrated over these last few days. Like my guys, I'm just taking them in every draft, and it's I thought my exposures were kind of flat before. They're starting to not be so flat anymore. 302 drafts. I mean, Rashi Rice, the only player above 25, only a few players above 20. It's fine. These were drafts from all throughout the summer. My takes changed a lot. Like, finally finished weekly winners. A little bit more of extreme takes here. I wish I actually went more extreme than this. Devin A. Chain, 22%. It's probably hard to get any more than that. So I'm pretty happy with that. Justin Fields, super duper scary, but in a format like weekly winners, I'm perfectly fine giving up that last round pick for the upside of Justin Fields. It's like the other guys were betting on that they get the opportunity and they have the talent. Justin Fields already has the talent. We know this. He has a talent for scoring fantasy points. So if he gets the opportunity, I'm going to be pretty happy to have this percent. Rashi Rice, most of this was drafted pretty late, and his ADP didn't really move up by the time this contest closed, so that feels really good. And then my marathon exposures, the contest that we're actively talking about right now. You can see I have an affinity for Jacoby Myers. I think I saw that Curtis Samuel's practicing. Turf toe is scary. I wasn't super high on him to begin with. I saw a positive report on Tyler Lockett today, so I'll take him here. And then have to take a running back with my next pick. I know who I'm going to take. I guess I've been not that much in this format, but Gus Edwards has been a guy that falls past ADP a lot. It makes sense because his ADP is way up, but feels like a comfy click. Trying to get away from J.K. Dobbins, trying to get away from Ezekiel Elliott too. I see Twitter hyping up Rico Dowdle today though, and I've already been getting Zeke in the 150s, so it's like I'm not passing up on Ezekiel Elliott in the 150s. I still think Rico Dowdle has not shown us anything in his time in the NFL, and at the very least, Zeke has the resume, and we know that the organization likes him. We know that one person in the organization likes him, the one that matters the most. We're gonna take Chuba here. He was probably a pretty good value most of the summer. I don't know. Maybe he's moved up like 20 or 30 spots in the last few weeks. It's like people knew Jonathan Brooks was going to miss the beginning of the season. And so I liked Chuba when I was thinking about him as an early season source of production on my zero RB teams. But now I'm looking at him like, what's the guarantee that Jonathan Brooks becomes a workhorse even by like week 11? Or no, that's too early. By like week 15 when the playoffs come. Like if Jonathan Brooks is a workhorse in the playoffs, you're going to feel really good if you have Jonathan Brooks on any team. But what if he's not? What if Chuba Hubbard maintains a role all season? You know, he has a large role to begin the season. Then they start working Jonathan Brooks in, and he has a lesser role by the playoff time. But I mean, we know that Chuba Hubbard, he's had a couple big games, a couple touchdowns isn't out of reach for him. They want to protect Jonathan Brooks. They're probably going to be terrible. So yeah, I've been getting a little bit higher on Chuba Hubbard more recently. Especially, I'm a little behind at running back. I know I have Kyron, and then I reached a little bit for Jerome Ford, but there are a few guys that we talk about that have contingent value when the starter goes down, and then guys who are probably going to contribute every game. Like Jaleel McLaughlin, still think he contributes every game. He'll get a slight bump if something happens to Javante, but I'm not expecting him to take over the bulk of the work or anything. Audric Estime is not bad. Love Tyler Algier in that role. Again, like I mean, you can see the percentages here that I'm drafting these guys. Probably want to add Jordan Mason, but I mean, if CMC goes down week 2 and you have Jordan Mason, you congrats. Like you have a workhorse on San Francisco offense. I mean, that goes for anyone though. Braylon Allen, Tyler Algier, guys like Jalen Wright who have 2 paths to getting on the field. Something happens to Mostert or A-Chain. It gets really tough if you're not done with running back by the time you get to this range. I guess I haven't taken Madison here, but he seems like a guy to me that's going to put up points. We just don't know how many. I don't believe in Zamir White. Sorry. I've taken some Cam Akers in other formats. Excuse me. It's like I don't know, Damian Pierce. Just not excited about him at all. Cam Akers has no Achilles, or was that it? He tore both his Achilles, I think. So it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough because the injury risk has got to be very high, but he looked great in preseason, and it seemed like the Texans like him more than Pierce. I don't see how they couldn't. Remember, the guy he lost his job to was named Kyron Williams. So last year. Yeah, this is how you win this contest. Do not take an early. I'm gonna try really, really hard not to take elite QBs anymore. I know that they bricked last year, but it's just if you dive into the math on replacement points, it's it's just so much more valuable to hit on a late quarterback. Yeah, we're taking Tyler Algier here. I'm behind at running back. And so this is a guy I already liked, but I kind of thought about this. I'm fading Bijan pretty hard. I think I've taken him once in my last 100 drafts. I should probably be taking more Algier if that's the case. Unless you're just out on the whole offense, which is fine. I don't want to be, though. I want to get more Algier. As for my second quarterback, I could just go Geno in a few rounds. If I miss on Geno, like I said, I mean, ceiling shot Will Levis. I already have Lamar Jackson. It's not terrible to miss on the second quarterback. If I had Amon-Ra, I would take Goff for sure. 30 picks past ADP. Just wrap it up. I just hope Isaiah Likely makes it back to me. 166. He'd be 8 past ADP. Jalen Wright or Isaiah Likely. Let's see what these guys running or tight end situations look like. He's got tight end. This guy's done. This guy's probably done. That guy could add one. That guy's done. That guy. Okay. So a few of these guys could conceivably add Isaiah Likely. I have Trey McBride. It doesn't matter. Thinking about replacement points, even if Isaiah Likely ends up starting, I already have Trey McBride. Like a ceiling game, not a ceiling game, but a really good game for Isaiah Likely could be like 14 points. Trey McBride scores 14 points in his sleep. Whereas Jalen Wright, if he gets on the field, a ceiling game, I mean, I don't know, A-Chain scored 50 last year. Couple rounds left. I was going to do this after, but save some time, I guess. Let's take a look at. I was kind of interested. I wish they did a little bit more with this Thursday night, Friday night. Like if there was a Thursday night, Friday night, Sunday night, or even with Monday too, that'd be pretty fun. But these battle royales that Underdog has, I don't know if we're going to be able to get one in before a video in before week 1. We have a lot of stuff going on, but definitely for week 2 and beyond, we'll be doing some battle royale drafts, talking about how we can use the Occupy model and incorporate that and try to find an edge on the field here. And this is already full, so for most people watching this is going to be gone by the time that you watch this video. Maybe they'll add another one though, since it's still a couple days till Thursday. But so these contests, this one specifically, it's only 4 people. There's only 4 starting quarterbacks, so you got to figure that's what it is. And I want to look at the rankings. There's no ADPs on here. They're ordered by projection, and I might be completely wrong on this. I'm sure someone good at battle royales could tell you, but my first, like, these are 3 really stud quarterbacks. Does it really matter which one you get? Not really. And can Jordan Love match them on any given week? Absolutely. I think we want to focus on getting the skill players like AJ Brown, either of the running backs if you like any of them. Travis Kelce, Rashi Rice. Zay Flowers down here seems like a really nice value piece. A guy that can put up a nice spike week. I mean, Jaden Reed, whoever. If you guess whichever Green Bay receiver catches a touchdown this weekend, it's probably a pretty strong thing to have in this tournament. And then let's say you punt quarterback, you can just take Jordan Love in the last round. No one can take 2 quarterbacks, so you're guaranteed to get him. You can just scoop up all the other skill position players. If no one at quarterback separates, congrats. Your skill position players are much better than at least the other 3 people in your pod, probably a lot better than half the teams in the whole contest. But once we have an Occupy model for this season, we can kind of go through that. So if you're not a member at Occupy Fantasy, you know what to do. $7 a week gets you access to our content. We'll have daily plugs during the season. Every showdown slate, I will be writing the Sunday night showdown slates this year. I did last year. And we have a weird Friday night one this year, too. It's not safe for the players, as far as I understand, being in Brazil, but I don't know. I guess we'll find out once I look into it a little bit more. Pretty happy to just click on Geno here and be done at quarterback. Definitely, I'm bad at this, but definitely double check that you're not drafting quarterback with the same bye week. Because you have to tack on a third receiver in BBM, whatever, or I mean a third quarterback to advance in BBM. You don't even have to sometimes if you think your team is strong enough. But here, let's say that 20 points you give up if you don't draft a third quarterback and you take 2 QBs with the same bye. Let's even say 15 is like the expectation for that replacement quarterback, and that might be a little high. 15 points could be the difference between $300,000 and $65,000. Like the difference between first and 10th is going to be less than 50 points, probably, maybe 100, maybe if someone really smashes like the best picks in the late rounds. But last year we talk about if you're within 20 points of advancing, that's like the cutoff I think that we use. 20 points in the marathon could be $100,000. Versus the 20 points being a min cash. And yeah, you get to keep progressing in the playoffs after that, but every point matters in this contest. And it's like those last 15 points, the last 15 points you score in this contest in week 14 are going to be the most valuable points by far. That's not to say stack for week 14 because it doesn't matter. But what I mean is like I just said, if you finish in fourth place by 12 points versus first, and you did something weird like take two QBs with the same bye week, you're probably going to throw up. I mean, 65K, I'd be thrilled, but getting that close to first, like I said this in the last stream, the difference between first and 100th place is variance. And in this contest that this big, like the difference between first and 1,000th is variance. If you finish 100th, 1,000th in this tournament, you built a great roster. It's the same stuff with like DFS. You're playing the big millies on opening weekend, and it's like, oh, I finished, 64th. What could I have done differently? Absolutely nothing. Why would you want to do anything differently? You finished in the top 0.01% of the contest. I guess that is some of the appeal of this. There's less variance than there is in BBM, but I consider that a feature of best ball, the pod luck and the advance rates and, just the randomness there and like stuff like that. I don't really think best ball can ever be solved due to those kind of stuff. Like season long scoring stuff, I don't think it can get solved either, but it can get much closer. Variance is good. Even if you're a sharp player, like variance, if you're a sharp player, the variance should probably benefit you more if you're taking the right steps to put yourself in a position to do so. Number one, like my math takes, I appreciate it because I'm kind of just like coming up with it off the top. If there's anything more specific you want to hear about, I could actually go look into it a little bit more specifically and get hard numbers. But a lot of these are just estimates, and I think that's good enough for what we're trying to do here. We don't need to get into exact numbers, right? Just drafted a couple marathons. Yeah, did you get some pretty cool value? I took Marshawn Lloyd here. I'd been avoiding him a little bit recently. I thought he was going to start the year on the IR, but I guess he's not. Yeah, he returned to practice yesterday. So if you were drafting him the past few weeks, you probably got some decent value on him. I was seeing him fall to the last round. AJ Dillon's done for the season. I did take, was it Emmanuel Wilson a few times? Probably Green Bay's wide receiver 3, but we're not really going to do that anymore if Marshawn Lloyd's ready. And maybe he even misses week 1, but he'll be back. If he's not going to hit the IR, he should be back week 2, week 3. And I mean, we were hyping up. I was anyway. Not hyping him up, but just I think he's in line for work. And with AJ Dillon not being on the team, it becomes a little bit more clear. Ricky Pearsall, I believe he's out for 2 months. It's unfortunate. Really happy to hear he's going to be okay. Pretty scary, but unfortunately for fantasy purposes, I don't think we should be taking him this year. This is like a symbolic pick. I love it. Good for you. Drake Maybo Knicks. Jalen Hurts. I don't know if taking 2 quarterbacks on top of Jalen Hurts is necessary. Like, I just showed you Jalen Hurts and Zach Wilson shipped 2 years ago. And Jalen Hurts went later than he is now. So it's a lot of draft capital to the quarterback position. But if you hit on one of these guys, I suppose it's okay. It'd feel a lot better if maybe your first quarterback was like a Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy, then you add on these two for a couple ceiling shots. I mentioned it. I think I might just go for it. Missed out on Isaiah Likely. So I have Trey McBride. I'm not really concerned about like ping ponging weeks. I kind of just want to take a shot because if I hit on Benson Ott and let's say he's Trey McBride after like week 6, it's just so strong. Getting 2 stud tight ends like these past 2 winners: Tyler Higbee, Taysom Hill, Jake Ferguson, Kate Otten. These 2 are smashes. Higbee and Otten not so much. And then over here it's just Evan Engram and Kittle. So Trey McBride version 2. We drafted Trey McBride twice to the same team. Don't mind taking shots on Zach Ertz either. I have 3% here. I have more than this in the other formats. We saw it play out last year where Zach Ertz started the season. He was fine, for a late round tight end. I thought he was fine if he had kept up that production the whole season, but he lost his spot to Trey McBride. Wouldn't be surprising to see the same thing this year. I don't know, something about a rookie quarterback and just having that veteran presence of Zach Ertz. at least to start the year. It's probably pretty good because otherwise he has Terry McLaurin and who else? Austin Eckler? Nope. Just subscribed, all notifications. Appreciate you, Fantasy Dog. It's really kind of you. Thanks for being here, man. 6 receivers, 6 running backs. I'm done at running back. Greg Dortch is probably my favorite pick here. Although Jermaine Burton's kind of interesting. I think I can take one more wide receiver after this. Jermaine Burton might be more interesting in like redraft leagues, home leagues. If Jamar Chase ends up sitting out games, I think you should probably have Jermaine Burton or Yoshivas on your bench. If you have Jamar Chase, I would go pick up one of those guys, if not both of them right now, if you have the room anyway. Just give you some flexibility. Let's see, other last round guys that I'm drafting this week at wide receiver position. Yeah, I really like taking shots on Malik Washington. I haven't been taking Jordan Whittington too much, but it's like out of sight, out of mind. No one's talked about him in a few weeks, but I have enough in the other contests. I'm pretty happy with it, and I'll still tack him on, mostly in Matt Stafford builds now, I guess. Darius Slayton, if I literally can't decide anyone, I'll take him. Don't mind Josh Reynolds, low draft rate, probably the wide receiver 2 in Denver. Noah Brown, wide receiver 2 in Washington. I had a bunch before he was traded on the other sites. I guess not in this format, but I don't hate it. Presumed wide receiver 2 is probably an okay role. DJ Shark still missing from practice. This is not great. Yeah, I'm getting really nervous about my Shark exposure. I really don't like Lad McConkey. I don't think anyone likes Quentin Johnston. I like Josh Palmer. He's fine, but who else? The rookie Brendan Rice, who is that Jerry Rice's son? Brendan Rice. He is a son of Pro Football Hall of Fame wide receiver Jerry Rice. So it's like, why are we not drafting this guy, man? We drafted Marvin Harrison 11th overall. Come on. But in all seriousness, I've taken this guy a few times. It's such a deep shot for best ball. Like, this is a guy who could end up being a waiver pickup if he's, I don't know, even the third option in LA. I don't think Justin Herbert is bad. I think Justin Herbert's good. Someone's going to catch the football. And like I said, I don't know how much sense it makes to draft him in best ball. If it works out, I don't know what advantage you're really getting over other guys in the range. It would have to really work out, have a Puka-like season. And it's like, all right, only 3% of the whole tournament drafted Brendan Rice, and you have him. Heard an analyst say Noah Brown will be wide receiver 2 in Washington by week 3. Why are we waiting till week 3? I'm of the sense that he's going to be the wide receiver 2 there pretty quickly. I haven't like consciously thought, this happens week 1, this happens week 2. Then by week 3, he's a clear second target earner at the position. But the reason I was in on Noah Brown before was just because we know that he's capable of catching and running in long touchdowns, and that's literally it. He's capable of having spike games. He's done it multiple times. He's had a few terrible plays. I want to say he was targeted on a really bad interception 2 or 3 seasons ago when he was on Dallas, if I'm not mistaken, and it got housed for a pick 6 or something. Maybe it was the playoffs. I don't know, but either way, like he's injured a bit, and I'm in on Noah Brown. So to answer your question, I think he's a wide receiver 2 by week 3. Yeah, it's just who's the other option? Diami Brown, Luke McCaffrey, not separating from other receivers. I mean, there's some hype. He's got a great name. Don't know if I can do it though. I thought I had someone queued up that must have got taken. Slayton, Josh Reynolds. I mean, this is a type of shot. Why is my mouse not moving? This is the type of shot that you really like. This is a deep shot. So what I just said at the beginning of the stream about who cares about floor, if I cared about floor, I could take Darius Slayton or Josh Reynolds, but it's like, okay, so they give me 7 points a game. Every player on this list is going to score 7 points a game. Devontae Walker is probably going to be a 0, but what if he's not? What if something happens to Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman's dust. Devontae Walker, wide receiver one, steps up with the opportunity. I don't know how good he is at football. I don't think there's any shot he's as good as Zay Flowers, but you never know. And he's a guy who's not drafted in a lot anymore. I did have an unstacked Lamar, so taking shots like this, I think, is great. Especially if I miss on Devontae Walker, I can still win this contest if the rest of my receivers, pay off. You have a lot of Shark, Slayton, AT Perry, dude. Our staff chat, I'm glad you said that. Our staff chat was so excited about AT Perry earlier in the offseason. And then I think the coach, I might be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure the coach does not like him. I don't know if it's going to say the comments on here. Yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was, but there were some not positive comments about him that kind of scared me a little bit. But the thesis on him is the same as is for a lot of other guys. His A dot is really high, and so he might not be involved that much, but when he does get involved, he's going to have the opportunity to turn in big plays. Fantasy Dog, I appreciate you, man. Yeah, I'm trying to get one more stream in with Brian. That's the co-founder of Occupy Fantasy, one of the sharpest guys around. We'll see if we can do that tomorrow or Wednesday. If you're not already in the Discord, there's instructions in the description below. And then if you're not a member of Occupy Fantasy, I mean, we'd love to have you if you're interested in, DFS for the regular season. If not, I mean, come hang out in the Discord. We talk about pick'ems and just, I mean, if you want to talk about NFL, we got some pretty fun NFL conversations in there frequently. So, and just in case you're not signed up for Underdog Fantasy, use the promo code Occupy2. They'll let your first deposit up to $1,000. Best promotion in fantasy sports. Say it every stream. And yeah, so we'll be back for a couple more streams before the season starts. But we have less than 72 hours until NFL every week for the next months. So pretty excited about that.